All right, on this Gun Talk Hunt, we're talking about hunting numbers and what it looks like from an economic stance and a new product highlight.
Hey, I'm KJ, dedicated lifelong hunter here. If you got an interest in all things hunting, you're in the right spot. Whether chasing quail across the plains of Oklahoma or in pursuit of elk in the backcountry of British Columbia, you'll always find me on the hunt.
All right, welcome in all you Gun Talk hunters. I'm your host, KJ, and this episode is brought to you by Ruger and Range Ready. All right, let's get this show going. So, as a lot of you know, like when I in my previous life before Gun Talk, I was in the PR game, and in Oklahoma, where I grew up, and where I was born and raised, and a lot of my hunting was done stateside. Like, I didn't have the funds to hunt out of state. And really, I almost certainly don't have those funds right now. But I had to turn into a road hunter. And I really never understood like the economic impact that my money and the money that I spent traveling, what that meant to bringing in state funds, for my state of Oklahoma. Like, I kind of took everything for granted. Like, it's just a short jump. It's short 2-hour drive down or a 30-minute drive, to my hunting grounds. But now that I'm traveling across state lines, I'm bringing, I'm taking my dollars to different states because the hunting down here is just not exactly what I look for. It's not really what I love, as far as whitetail deer. Like, it's pretty scarce where I'm at now, and that's why I have to travel to hunt. That being said, Sportsman's Alliance put out they all the time they're gathering the numbers and looking at what they're usually running 3 years behind, it seems like. But they just put out their numbers for 2022, which to me, I'm like, okay, yeah, I was hunting across state lines. I was doing a lot of out-of-state hunting at those times. And what did that look like? Man, all walks of life hunt, and what it means to states when, you use your dollars in those states, and the amount of economic stability it brings to conservation efforts in your states, or the states that you hunt. And so I was going to run down like some numbers that they put out, and it's pretty interesting. And it makes me kind of sit back and think like, what the licenses that I buy, the gear that I buy, the gas that I buy on the way to, to the hunt, that all has an economic impact on states and even conservation efforts, with the Pittman-Robertson Act. So the National Survey, 2002 National Survey of Fishing, Hunting, and Wildlife Associated Recreation reports that 14.3 million people aged 16 or older, that's nearly 5% of the U.S. population, went hunting in 2022. That's really cool because you got to think about where we were at in 2022. We're coming off of the heels of 2020, and we all know what that meant for us. And there was an influx of new shooters, new hunters that were either doing something outdoors for the first time or they were reconnecting to those outdoors. So it's a cool way to see. And ages 6 to 15, there were nearly 1.8 million kids who went hunting in 2021. So getting more youth hunters out there. But by category, let's think about this. All right. So you had the real number is 14,374,590. So I'm guessing, now that's not including all the scofflaws out there. That's not including those guys that were, hunting over the cover of night with no licenses. That's licensed and hunters and fishermen. But what I thought was really interesting, this is by categories for hunters. Of the big game hunters, there's 11 million plus, 11.5 million plus hunters. Small game hunters was 5 million. I would have guessed that to be lower. I really would have. I would have been like, you know what? Probably not a whole lot, but man, 5.2 million small game hunters and 2.8 million migratory bird hunters. All right. So what does that mean? What does that mean like dollar wise? So how much money is being produced on equipment licenses, trips, and everything? The overall number, and this floored me. We are a big industry. We seem to be a small number of the population, but we are a big number. We produced an all hunting, this is just all hunting, $45.2 billion. That is a huge economic impact for all the states across the board. You start taking away hunting opportunities and stuff like that, that starts to cut in, all right? Of the big game hunters out there, all you guys that dream of heading out west and doing all those big things out there, $22.1 billion. That is impressive. All of that to be said, for hunting, that equates to 540,000 jobs. So in salary and wages, you're looking at $33.5 billion. What? My gosh, that's a lot. So in 2022, U.S. hunters outnumbered the populations of 46 states. Only New York, Florida, Texas, and California had populations greater than the number of U.S. hunters. That's I would say that if you look at it on paper, that's pretty shocking to me that, us hunters outnumber 46 states. That's pretty cool. Big game hunters spent more in 2022 than the revenues of Union Pacific, which was $21.7 billion, Rite Aid, $21.7 billion, and McDonald's. We beat McDonald's. Congratulations, guys. That's really big news for you guys. I think we should probably get an award of some sort. I don't know what we would get. Maybe a free bighorn sheep tag. Let's say that. Everybody gets a bighorn sheep tag. That ain't going to happen. I'm going to tell you that right now. But pretty cool. Pretty cool to think about that we're spending more than some of the big companies out there. But so being a road hunter, I have to take into account lodging, food, gas, the wear and tear on my vehicle, that type of stuff, licenses, your tags, and equipment, guns, ammo, all that good stuff. So trip-related spending is $12.3 billion. If you could guess, if you're sitting there and you're going, you know what, or the guide fees would be another one of these, lodging, like all that good stuff. What would your guess be of where we spent the most dollars for our travel, our trip-related expenses? And I would have guessed this one correctly. And Paul's behind the camera, and I'm behind the station over there, and he's like scratching his head, probably not paying any attention. But I would have guessed this one right. Food. 100% it has to be on food. Because I guarantee you, like, man, you go through a state like Texas, and you're going to stop at Buc-ee's. You're going to stop at, like, any barbecue joint you see, especially if you're in a state that doesn't have very good barbecue. Louisiana, I'm talking to you. But you're going to spend that money on food. So we spent the most there at $2.5 billion. And short behind that was private transportation with $2.4 billion. So, guides, if you're, tipping your guides and you're doing lodging and stuff like that, like a lodge, $717 million are spent alone on guides. That's pretty cool. The lowest on that is other public transportation. Who's taking public transport? I guess flights. Is it flights that you're counting in public transportation? But it's not a private plane, so I guess I would have thought that number really would have been bigger, and it's only $569 million. So guys are not flying, guys and gals, families are not necessarily driving to their location. They're driving to their locations rather than flying, which is definitely my case. So that's kind of cool. But hunting equipment, we spent $7.9 billion. $7.9 billion. We spent 1.5 of that on rifles. I'm telling you, shotguns was down there. Muzzleloaders, even more. Muzzleloaders, we only spent $284 million on. And pistols, we bought the heck out of pistols, $934 million. So, and if you're wondering how much money we as a country spent on decoys alone, $324 million in 2022. I didn't buy a single decoy that year. I can promise you that. But no, it's pretty cool to see these numbers and to see where the trends are. You know, what are people buying? What are companies producing? I'm sure we could go along the lines and see the trends of companies producing more rifles, which you're seeing a more lightweight trend in rifles. And so that ticks up into like, that's what people are going to start buying. So that was pretty cool to see. One of the funny ones on here that I was like, and it's a little bit disappointing, but we are doing a good part in it, is dues and donations to conservation groups. We only spent $284 million there. That number should be double that, at least. We should be, and we are funding conservation efforts through the Pittman-Robertson Act, which is an excise tax on items that you purchase, your hunting equipment, your fishing license, hunting license, all stuff like that. We are contributing in that way, but that is automatically taken out. We're not directly going to conservation groups like Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, to Mule Deer Foundation, organizations like that to like get involved. So that's one area where I believe we could step it up a little bit. But no, this is a very interesting one. Land leased. How much are we spending on leases? We're spending $2.9 billion on leases. I contribute to that. I'm going to tell you that right now because there's a few spots out there. Federal duck stamps is down $82 million, down to $82 million, which is, it's okay because there's not as many migratory bird hunters. So it's interesting. But yeah, so since 1937, like we're talking about the Pittman-Robertson Act and stuff like that, an excise tax paid by hunters, shooters, and anglers and boaters, we've contributed $22.9 billion to state conservation and recreation projects. So that is what we are doing there. So we're generating nearly $1 billion in conservation funding, it's pretty cool. But yeah, Sportsman's Alliance, they put out this research, every 2 or 3 years. They're always collecting data. But it's interesting to go through here and see what we're spending our money on, what we're kind of light in. But it's pretty cool. We love ammo because we're spending $1.2 billion of it. I'm definitely contributing a lot to that, which is nuts. But yeah, that's it. We're going to jump in to a new product that I just want to, I'm not going to take forever to talk about rifle clamps, but it's an important tool that really kind of kicked off a new way of shooting and an easier way to shoot. So after this break, we're going to jump into that.
The Ruger Precision Rimfire, or as the cool kids call it, the RPR. This beast has a heavy contour barrel, a Ruger Precision Rifle muzzle brake to tame recoil like a well-trained hunting dog, and an adjustable trigger that's smoother than your best pickup line at the bar. Need versatility? The multi-mag interface lets you run mags from AICS to Magpul style so you can stop hoarding magazines like a doomsday prepper. Plus, with a fully adjustable buttstock, this rifle fits you better than your favorite pair of hunting boots. Bottom line, if you want long-range accuracy, smooth operation, and durability built into one serious rifle, get yourself an RPR.
It's time to prepare for the shot of a lifetime. Whether you're a seasoned hunter or new to the sport, preparation is key. I preach it all the time. At Range Ready Studios, we offer the training you need to make that shot of a lifetime. Chris Serino is on staff, and he has a host of instructors on hand to provide personalized trainings in state-of-the-art facilities and practical exercises that build your confidence and skills. From precision marksmanship to quick target acquisition, we've got you covered. Don't leave your success to chance. Visit rangereadystudios.com to learn more. All right, welcome back. I am KJ, your host on Gun Talk Hunt, and I'm doing it solo today. So I'm sorry if you're out there and you're listening to my voice ramble on, but talking about, numbers that hunters produce, hunters, fishers, boaters, all those guys produce for conservation efforts and for states to maintain lands and population control and all that good stuff. But I wanted to jump in. And as we're filming this today, it's a Thursday, April 17th. A new product launched today that I really enjoy. I have shot off of it, and it's way more innovative. It's just a rifle clamp. That's all it is. It's the Vortex Pro Rifle Clamp tripod mount, and I'm going to go through a couple of features on it. But I really wanted to talk about kind of the origins of this little piece of gear and what it's meant for my hunting. Because when I started shooting with tripods, the Arca Swiss rail that is typically found on a lot of rifles nowadays was not there. It wasn't there. And I had started shooting off tripods with this Hog Saddle. It's from ShadowTech. And I started shooting with it. And I hold it in my hand, and I kid you not, this sucker feels like an anchor. And when you move around as much, and as you transition into being a hunter that primarily hunts on the road, you've got to mind your ounces and your pounds. You just have to. Your ounces, because if you look at it, everything that I carry with me, like, I need to be thoughtful about. And this sucker, as cool as it was back in the day, because all you do is you set it in your tripod, and you have this little Arca rail here that I have. It's a Neewer, basically from one of my cameras that I put on there, and then you slide it into your Arca rail on your tripod, and then you've got a rifle clamp. You screw it down with this big, bulky dial here, and one side of it moves and closes in and seals your forend down of your rifle. And so now you're left with a little bit more stable shooting platform. But this is how I started to learn how to shoot off of a tripod. Now it's way different. There's, tack plates out there that I shoot off of. I glass off of them, shoot off of them. But I really like this for youth hunters. Okay. My kids shoot off of a rifle clamp. Either that, or they'll shoot off, if their gun has a Arca Swiss rail, which is very commonplace now. That is what they shoot off of. But a rifle clamp really secures the gun from most all edges. But this Hog Saddle weighs I think I clocked it in at I think it was 1.8 1.88 pounds. 1.88 pounds. That's a hunk of metal that you got to pack in. And when you dial it, when you're locking it in, it doesn't, it's good for what it is. I can't really bash this except for its weight, because it served a great purpose for me and my kids. We've shot a lot of deer off of this little piece of metal right here. But it's heavy, it's bulky, it's durable because it's lasted the years. It's lasted quite a while. But I haven't had to do much maintenance to it. I'll oil it up every once in a while and then throw it aside, and then it's good for the year. But Vortex launches their Pro Rifle Clamp, and immediately you see a weight difference. This is, I think it's what is it? Like, it's made of magnesium, 14.4 ounces is what this is. That's a massive difference. When you're starting to talk about this is a big step up. And when you close it, you've got one lever that you pull it out and you can shift it, and you can change the positioning of your release lever. Or the lever you tighten the whole unit down with. And instead of one side moving on this clamp, both sides move. So I'm not only driving one side into the rifle, I'm putting even pressure. And I think that's more important than anything, is that you're putting even pressure on both sides of the rifle. Which is a really, really good deal. But this is a lightweight magnesium body, heavy rubber sides and base, which is really nice. And it's got a built-in, that is a heavy-duty Arca Swiss rail, but it's fully adjustable. The jaws are real lightweight. Okay, now you look at these two side by side, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on the camera or not, but on the Hog Saddle, you've got this triangulated star knob that is very big, very bulky, and you can't get it out of the way. Like, you can't move it out of the way. Like, if it's in your way, it's in your way. And I don't really like that, because when you're talking about adjusting the knobs on your tripod or anything like that, it's just difficult. But you start looking over here at the Vortex, you can move it out of your way. You pull up, you find the bolt head in the right position, and you just move it. That's pretty cool. That's pretty smart by Vortex. But that is a product highlight that I think if you guys are looking for a gun mount for youth, and if you're a stand hunter, man, I would highly recommend it. I think Vortex is thinking outside the box of just offering, glass, their binoculars and their rangefinders and their rifle scopes and their pistol scopes, and their turkey red dots. So they're offering a lot, but they're offering a lot for shooters. And I think that this little guy right here is going to sell a ton, because it's just ruggedly built. And like all Vortex stuff, even their clothing comes with a lifetime, no questions asked warranty. So that doesn't mean it is chintzy. This is well built. I would have no problem switching this over. And if I could sneak this out of the office without Ryan seeing me, I would probably keep this one for myself. But I'm going to have to go buy it now. So that's okay, and I'm okay with that. But as long as he lets me use it here at the office, I think we'll be good. So that's it. That is the product that I wanted to highlight today. I'm excited for this to be out there. You guys look for it. If you're looking to trim weight from a heavier hog saddle or a pig saddle, I would definitely consider that Pro Rifle Clamp from Vortex. They've done a completely phenomenal job on this. Rugged, durable, all the things you want in a rifle clamp. So all you gun talk hunters, you know the drill. keep those rifles or those muzzles pointed in a safe direction and always be on the hunt.